tombstones as big. Back in August 2022. Heat. Relentless heat. 8.2 millimeters of rain. Just 1 hour. Fierce and unending. Tumbling down the shoulders of Yunnan's mountains, with a vengeance that reshaped the land itself. What began as a torrent of summer storms soon became a catastrophe. Rivers once gentle and winding turned into monsters, tearing across valleys with a roar that silenced everything in their path. Hillsides, saturated beyond endurance, surrendered in great waves of earth and stone. Communities that had stood for generations crumbled overnight, forced to flee as nature's fury swallowed roads, farmland, and homes without mercy. In the steep valleys of Yunnan and ditching, the deluge struck with the precision of a hammer blow. Mud and boulders cascaded into towns, burying streets under layers of debris. Bridges groaned and collapsed beneath the crushing weight, while roads that once bound villages together disintegrated into gaps of nothingness. In Yunnan, residents watched in despair as their homes fractured and their lifelines to the outside world vanished. Officials counted dozens of houses damaged, with entire villages cut off from contact. Even the strongest concrete gave way under the relentless surge, leaving scars across the province's backbone. Transport Yunnan's fragile link between valleys and high ridges suffered a brutal assault. Sections of highway were obliterated, swallowed by landslides or simply washed from the mountainside. Convoys carrying food and medicine were forced onto perilous cliffside tracks, where one misstep meant disaster. Daiki Prefecture fared no better. There, the mountains seemed to crumble all at once, sending cascades of rock and mud over highways. Popular tourist towns that once thrived on the beauty of the Snow Mountain fell silent. Their approach roads drowned and their trails smothered by raging rivers. The heart of Yunnan's tourism industry froze overnight as hotels locked their doors, visitors evacuated, and operators suspended their journeys into the mountains. The storm's wrath spared nothing, not even the invisible lifelines of power and communication. In the Dongjang Valley, an electrical substation was ripped from the ground, its lines and poles carried away like twigs in the flood. Darkness spread across entire districts, leaving thousands to fumble through nights of silence. Repair crews struggled, relying on drones and portable generators to bring even the faintest flicker of electricity back. But the damage ran deeper. Telecommunications collapsed as towers toppled and fiber lines were severed, cutting villages off from the outside world. For days, families were stranded with no word from their loved ones. Relief teams shouted into radios, waiting for static to clear, silence with fragile signals. Meanwhile, the rivers themselves turned predators. Tributaries like the Dulong swelled into raging beasts, gnawing at embankments and tearing down retaining walls. Wooden debris trees, planks, fragments of homes rammed into bridge supports, breaking what little infrastructure remained. Engineers raced against time, bracing structures with desperate reinforcements, but for every wall shored up, deliveries of grain, oil, and fuel halted. Farmers and shopkeepers counted dwindling supplies, staring at empty shelves and wondering how long before help could break through the barricades of mud and stone. Emergency crews became lifelines in themselves. Bulldozers clawed open blocked roads, while soldiers hammered together temporary Bailey bridges to span rivers where proud structures had stood. In villages where floodwaters seeped through every generation, for hours, clearing mud so electricity could be restored without risk of fire. Relief trucks rumbled through, stacked with bottled water, blankets, and tarps. Calamity. The aid came slowly, But to those waiting with hungry children and fading candles, it was salvation. The damage, when measured, was staggering. Entire walls torn from homes, wooden beams snapped like dry branches, and whole terraces of farmland stripped bare by the flood's violence. Streets lay buried beneath meters of silt, drains clogged until stagnant pools spread sickness in their wake. Road engineers walked among hollowed pavements, their faces grim as they surveyed guardrails dangling over cliffs. Drains eroded into nothing, and entire stretches of road that would take months to rebuild. Each reopening was fragile, a temporary victory shadowed by the constant threat of new landslides waiting above on waterlogged slopes. For Yunnan, the disaster was more than a flood. It was a trial by fire and water, a test of resilience against forces far greater than human will. This land, once celebrated for its serene mountains and breathtaking valleys, had turned into a volatile stage for chaos. Families clung to what remained of their homes. Farmers sifted through mud to salvage seeds. Children asked when the lights would return, when the roads would reopen, when life would once again feel steady. The road to recovery will not be measured in days or weeks, but in seasons of labor. Each cleared road, each repaired house, and each restored line of communication will be a small step forward. Yet the people of Yunnan, bound to their mountains by heritage and memory, refused to surrender. Against the silence of collapsed bridges and the thunder of rivers, their voices rise with determination. They endure, they rebuild, and they adapt, because there is no other choice. Nature has delivered its warning with brutal clarity. In a world of shifting climates and relentless extremes, Yunnan's story is a reminder that beauty and danger can live side by side. For now, the province counts its scars and steels itself for the long journey ahead. And though the floodwaters have receded, the echoes of their power remain, etched into the land and into the memories of those who survived. Disasters like this flood are both destroyers and teachers. On one hand, they rip through lives, breaking roads, homes, and hearts. On the other, they remind us of resilience, the quiet strength of people who rebuild when everything falls apart. It's like watching a mountain crumble, yet knowing seeds still sprout in the cracks. Maybe the lesson is simple. Nature is always stronger, but also always shaping us. Preparedness, community, and adaptation are no longer optional, they're survival. And yet, how much can we truly control? And how much must we learn to live alongside? Thank you for staying with me through this story. I'd love to hear your thoughts. How do you think we can better prepare for disasters like this? Share your ideas below, or if you're not sure, just leave comment number 1 so I know you're here with us. Flood control info.